The first thing we're going to be doing here is the shirt on this chap here. It's a good idea to do the lighter colours first, because if you overspill with the darker colours, it wouldn't be a disaster. Now, having done that, I'm just going to push my tissue on it, and you can see how light that now makes that. And I'm going to just put a little tinge of blue in it as well. This is just touch. It's still wet, you see. And do the same thing again. And what you're left with is just a little touch more blue. There, isn't that pretty? Now we leave that alone. We can't do any more to that at the moment until we continue with the detail bit later on. Now the other light area really is the faces. Now we'll do those next. What I'm going to do there is just a little touch of red. A little red. Because I'm not using very much, you don't need a lot, so I've got a... I'll tell you what I'll do. Look, I'll bring the white pen over. There we are. Look, I've just taken it out. You see I've already got some here made up. This is white with just a little bit of red touched in. So let me just show you how that works. And the little hand is there, and his hand is here. See, we don't have to worry at the moment about detail. Let's just put I'm going to make them a little more bronze than that, but this is a good idea to show you how. This dabbing off is a good idea, because one, you're drying it out, and two, you're lightening it up. That's all we need. Now let's do the hats now. We'll give them a slightly different hat. This chap here on the right will have a little bit of Payne's Grey. So we'll make him a Payne's Grey hat. Once again, dab it with the tissue. And the other will have a brown hat. Now I'm not going to dab that, that's fine. And we'll have him having a matching, or almost a matching, brown jacket. And let's do, now he's going to have a white shirt, so I've left that white for the moment, his shirt. And his jacket will be like that. Excellent. Dab it with your tissue. This gives you an opportunity then of, when we put the darker in later on, we can leave the light areas as a light highlight. We just haven't got quite enough there. I'll just put a little bit more in there. Okay. Oh, here we have got a little bit more of the jacket here, coming down in the back. And it actually comes down like that, I think. That will be a crease that I've got there. I've not missed a line out. Should be a line there. Right, okay. Let's move over to our friend over here. Now, what we do here, to that brown mixture I've just mixed up on the palette, I'm adding just a little bit of burnt sienna. That gives us a richer colour. You see that? I tell you what I've also got, I've just seen here too, notice rather, should see, just under here we have just a little bit of his shirt. These are a couple of young lads, a bit of his shirt showing. There you go, no need to dab that with the tissue. Good so far. Now let's move on. Now we'll have them both in kind of working trousers. So let's have a brown for that. We'll have one slightly darker than the other. He'll have a darker trouser and the other one will have more of an ochre. Oops. Got to be careful though when you make something too strong. But because we're going in and we're doing that, you see the difference it makes? Okay, now this is the chap that's going to have the same colour again, but I'm going to add a little bit of ochre to the mix. Same colour as that, but with, well, it's not the same colour because I've bits more, but I've actually used the same. Oh, that's a little bit too strong, that's better. Really important to have a good drawing, to make sure if you do follow these pictures you have a good drawing. Now I'm going to have something in his hand. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have a drink, a book or what yet. We'll decide later. There we are, that's good, doesn't it? Now let's have a look, just have some boots on. Now we'll have to change brushes now because this is very fine, so I'm going to have some dark boots. So to that brown mixture I'm going to add just a little touch of black. You see that bead on there? I showed you this before, but you've got to get rid of it because it will run down and create a problem for us. And now here we've got to, what I want to try to do is to get a little bit of light in his shoe, like that. This is why I've used a small brush. Can you see that light in the shoe? Same here. We have a light just there. It's very attractive for one thing, but it's quite important. And they both have. In fact, I'll make him a little brown. Give him a little bit more brown on his shoe. Our friend here, or his boot, should I say? I want the same thing to apply there. So you can either do that, which are around, and then put his boot in like that. Good. And this one. Once again, we'll have a little light. Right. Now we've got that, we can now think about putting some colour in. Now I'm going to add a little bit of ochre and a touch of brown to the faces because I want them to be a little more weathered than that. But the pink underneath gives us the right tone. See how nice that is? Touch it with your fingers. Hands can be as well. This chap's got his hand in his pocket, so we've only got two hands. Haven't decided what to do with the book yet. I'm going to wait and see. I might even make that a little mug. We'll see. See how clever I can be later on. Now, the chap with the collar here, I've decided to not really put a colour in, so what I've put a little bit of Payne's Grey just to put a little shadow, because it wouldn't really have shadow under, but leaving the little light on the end. It's good. Now let's start looking at detail. The chap with the hat, which which was a little bit of Payne's grey. We can leave the light, put in the dark, so we go dark there, and then we go dark, leaving a little bit of light on that bit. And that. Okay, that'll do. And our friend over here with the brown hat. Let's come and see what we can do with him. Now we've got a background to concern ourselves with later, so we may well have to do some adjustments there. But there's I'm just giving him just like a rim of the hat. There we are. That will do. I don't like that little flicky bit there. Let me just get rid of it. All you do is you just wet your brush with water and effectively rub it out. That will do. So there's the hats, and really they are, you class those as done. What you could do, if you feel so inclined, you could just take just a little touch of that off, say there, and add just a little more, and add a little more colour, like a little bit of mauve maybe, similar to his shirt. But anyway, I'm being pernickety now, but that is something you could do if you wanted to. Okay, let's now look at his shirt, because we're going in the same rotation as we did before. What I'm doing is mixing that violet-y shade with just a little bit of Payne's grey and a little bit of blue, just a touch, a bit more blue. That's it. And when you've got it right on your palette, you can then develop it. Now we put a little collar, a bit of shadow on there. You can't be too fussy here. And in here, where we have his pocket. My pictures are quite small, but yours will, always suggest you make it a little bit bigger, say A4 size, so you'll have a little more room than I've got. More blue. And there we'll good. Now we might as well concentrate on our friend here. Let's do his jacket, which is a bit of burnt sienna. And we'll give him that little bead is annoying, but you've got to get rid of it. Over the side, he will have shadow, and we can just go around his hand. Good. this one inside. We're going to leave a very faint trace of light coming in between them, because it's nice to have. In fact, I'm going to put that all over there. Okay, and I'm going to use a darker colour just to emphasise that light. Can you see that light coming down in there and a little bit under there? A little bit of dark on it as well. And then we can use dip our brush in water and then fashion it. Looks good. Make that a little darker on that side. A little darker under there. See how that dries out. We'll have a look at that now. The trousers, which were a brown, we make it a little deeper. First of all, we'll go around there because that's his shirt. Darker there. And then we'll now it'll be quite dark on this side because it's in the shadow. Then we'll have it dark here. That's looking nice. You can always go back in and put some more depth on later on, but I'm quite happy with that, the way he's got a nice attitude there. What he hasn't got is any features yet. So we'll do that. Now because we've got brown, I'm going to use a brown, ochre brown, to draw in the feature. Then we'll have a little bit of hair, and that will also create an ear for us, just there. A little bit of hair just there. And we'll have a darker area there. And what we want to do is to try to establish the eyes, which will be here. The nose, the bottom of the nose and the mouth, and then we can have his chin. We have eyes there, nose and mouth. We've got our little friend. Lighten that bit just there. All I'm doing is just putting a little bit of water on my brush and just lightening it up. You can do the same thing with the nose if you're lucky. A little bit of light on the nose. And we could, if we were really fussy, just make a little bit touch of colour on his cheek. A little bit of red. One lad. While we're in the mood for that, let's do the other chap's face too. You'll have hair at the back. Once again, you put the hair, and if you just put just a touch like that, you suggest an ear. See that? Okay, now we do the same thing again. We do the eyes, eyes, nose, mouth. And when you reach that and you get it right, which I think I've done there, a little touch of red on cheek, and then with your wet brush, lifting a little bit off the nose, and a little bit off the chin. There we are. And we also want just a little bit of shadow on the side of his face, because he would be very much in shadow. Happy with him? Now we've got this chap done. What about this chap here? We've got a deeper brown jacket for him, but we've also got to think, well, yes, I appreciate it's darker, but we also want to leave some light too. So we start off by putting in the dark areas. Dark area goes here, like that, and that will give us, whatever we decide to do with that, that will give us do it slowly, Job, because this is a little more tricky, because he's facing away from us, so we've got just a little more. I'm going to leave the light there, and leave the light coming down on the front part of that sleeve for the time being. You can see that. With watercolour, you've got to be very careful that you don't overdo at any time. See that? I've got a little crease in there which I'm going to leave light. You can always darken it later, but that doesn't look too bad to me at the moment. We can always use, as I'm doing now, the lighter, dip it in water and smooth out. You've seen me do this before on this picture. Quite like that. Okay. Anyway, I'll do that later. I'll show you that later. Now down the side of his sleeve here. I think what we do here, we make this a little lighter. Now once again, you dip in with your brush and you just remove some of that depth. And with a strong colour, like a dark brown, or just a little touch of black with it as well, if you want, or dark Payne's grey, but as long as it's dark, you can then come down the middle there to put the separation of his jacket. Okay, now a little darker there would be nice to indicate that he's got a little lapel coming down the back part of the jacket, again with a very dark brown. And now you can see now, I couldn't see it before, but I can see now where I need to put some depth just here to push that down, and then we can back behind it too. And in the front, you don't have to be as fussy as I am. I just think it's interesting for you to see how this is done. And there you go. Now he looks pretty good. Happy with him. Now this trousers in front. Now these are going to be light ochre, so I'm using a bit, make him a little bit more colour in, and then almost immediately we've done that, we'll then start with our dark colours. It's dark brown. We put some dark brown in. So that separates the two legs, you see, like that. And then down here we can, again, shadow under there. See how that looks? And then we just use our tissue. Lovely. That's lovely. And there we need to darken ever so slightly. So a little bit of Payne's grey, black, whatever you've got on your palette, just to put a little bit of extra stuff. Now, you see I said to you what I'm going to do. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a book or a mug. I haven't actually touched that, but you can see what I've done is by using this thin brush, I've created a mug. Now I didn't do that deliberately. It was just a creation, the way that I've used watercolour, and a little bit more depth. And really, folks, you can leave it at that. These are the sort of things you can't fiddle around with too much. Once you're happy with your depth, scruffy bottom, I don't know quite what's going on there, but we'll make it look a little bit more. I'm happy with him, he's great. In fact, I'm happy with both of them. I think both of them look nice. So just make a little bit of lightness on coming down that by dipping the brush in water on the rag, just to lift a little bit of that off. There we are, he's got his hand around this mug now. And we could, if we wanted to make the mug, perhaps a slightly different colour. What about a little bit of green in there? Purely to make it, you can't have it too dark, but it would separate the colour from the... I'm just, you know what I'm thinking? I'm just anticipating the fact that I might be able to get with my very, very fine brush, and I don't you try this, it might not work for me. I'm just going to put just a little touch, a little spot of colour, if I can find the end. Can you see the very tip? I don't know whether you can actually see that on the screen, but I've got a very end. If I can just put that in there, I could suggest an opening for the mug. I have. Well, hey, even a bit of design on it too. That looks good. I'm pleased with them. They look superb. So the next thing we're going to be doing now is developing up here. What I plan to do, and I can start off here, is to putting all the colours in, even the colours like I did with the church. And we're going to vary them a little bit. I've got quite a lot of colour on my palette, so I'm going to use them all. Actually, let me show you what I'm doing.